I want us to look at Proverbs 17. I wrestled with exactly how far to go. And if you did not pick one up, there were some handouts out in the commons, and so I don't know if anybody did not pick one of those up, but there are some out there. If somebody could run out there and get those, that would be great. I don't know if there's any left, but if you don't have one, here in just a second, Paul will hand them to you if you need one. I put them on the little table in the middle, Paul, right outside the door, unless somebody moved them. But tonight, I want us to talk about marks of a social misfit. What we see here at the end of in the middle of chapter 17 are what it means to engage in a society well. We're going to see family dynamic, we're going to see individual dynamic, but it's important for us to be able to recognize what the negatives of being a social misfit. Oftentimes we wonder why someone, and I asked myself this question, why would someone choose to live in a self-destructive way? Because very often that's how it seems. People seem to choose to live a self-destructive lifestyle. Why would I choose when I can see blessing and longevity and graciousness and provision and abundance? Why would I choose to walk in a way that is death and just terrible decision making? I often wonder, what, and this shows kind of my ignorance, that people post the videos and they have all of the piercings and all of the things, and they're saying, why won't anybody give me a job? I just scratched my head, duh. And you could be a genuinely nice person, but there are some of those kind of things, have you thought about the consequences of your actions? We live in a culture that does not appreciate consequences. We don't like discipline. We don't like what it takes to be a success. And we live in a world, in a culture of social misfits. And we wonder why our nation is headed the way it is. And so we need to understand how we interact. And I think even mentioning a Charlie Kirk and how he would go to a campus and talk about gender identity and address some of those issues. How he would speak truth about the reality and the importance of the rule of law for a nation. And how there was genuine justice that needed to be upheld. And how it wasn't just a social justice and a social reform, but a genuine justice. He had an understanding of those things, and he was hated because of that. By so many that just want their own way, and they deny reality, and they live in a delusion, because the delusion says you have to agree with me. So let's look at the text and marks of a social misfit. Number one, the social misfit demonstrates no discretion. The social misfit demonstrates no discretion. We see it in verse 9. He that covereth a transgression seeketh love, but he that repeateth a matter separateth very friends. So when we look at this text, he that covereth the transgression seeketh love. This is somebody who is willing. This isn't talking about overlooking sin and sinfulness. This is someone who is looking to be discreet and handle a sin discreetly. But somebody who doesn't handle that sin discreetly, goes and repeats it. They are a gossip. They are a slanderer. They're trying to get somebody on their side. They're willing to destroy relationships rather than build relationships. And so a discretion is a mark of someone who has understanding of the building of relationships and care for people. Because you seek love, you seek compassion, you seek care, versus just talking and looking to destroy. Number two, we're going to go through quickly because there's so many. Number two, the social, this is hard to say, the social misfit refuses to receive instruction. Look at verse 10. We're going to go verse by verse. A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. I've looked at this. I had a young man. He was in my youth group. I was his youth pastor. Worked with him. He came to our Christian school. Taught him. And at first he was doing really well. So it was a young man who was adopted out of a horrible, horrible abusive situation. Horrible abusive situation. Great godly parents that adopted them. They took care of him. They ministered to him. They helped him. They wanted him to walk with Jesus. I took him to camp. I spent time with this young fellow. One day after chapel, he started yelling at our music director. And so I stepped in. I was functioning as the principal at the time. And I had to step in and tell the young man that I was going to have a discussion with his parents about his behavior and all of those kind of things. And he just started screaming at me, "I hate you." And he was a little fella, and he went to try to punch me. And I was like, "What?" I caught his arms, and I said, "What do you think you're going to do? Don't act this way." He jerked away, and he ran out. Started screaming at his parents. He ended up going, they sent him to a military school. It was called the Mountaineer Challenge Academy. It was put on, it was an academy, a military school put on by the National Guard up near West Virginia University in Morgantown. So it was a National Guard military school, put him through that. After he graduated from that, it was a hard program. He abandoned his adopted family and went back to the abusive drug addict family. He made these choices. Though he was disciplined, though he was corrected, he made these choices. Sadly, that young man is in prison. You can seemingly have it, but sometimes there are people that are going to reject and resist, but that doesn't mean we stop teaching. We must continue teaching, but we need to recognize some of those signs of those things. A reproof entereth. This passage, we're looking at the negative because I would contend that this passage is more on how to handle yourself in a difficult situation. A reproof entereth more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. The fool can take a beating. This is this person that likes to say it this way. I had to learn it the hard way. But a wise person is willing to learn from instruction from others. They don't have to make the same mistakes. This is an important truth. And so how do we teach our children to be wise? We've got to continue teaching them the results and consequences of actions. Number 3, the social misfit does not care about the consequences to their actions in verse 11. So they don't like to learn, and then they don't care about consequences. Verse 11, an evil man seeketh only rebellion. Therefore, a cruel messenger shall be sent against him. And so, when someone continuously lives in sin and embraces that sin and identifies by that sin, eventually there is a consequence that is going to come. You can embrace that sin, you can desire that sin, but ultimately you are only seeking rebellion against God. And the person that continues to identify in that sinful way and in that sinful lifestyle is in open rebellion against God, and they will ultimately then be judged. The social misfit doesn't care about the consequences of their actions. Then we also need to understand in verse 12, the social misfit does not care about whom he hurts. Verse 12, let a bear robbed of her whelps meet a man rather than a fool in his folly. We need to be on guard against those that do not care about the consequences and those that don't care about other people. Teaching people the value of life is of utmost importance from the earliest of stages. This is why abortion is such an important topic for us to deal with. Because if we do not value the weakest among us, I will value no one among us. Because then I only care about me. And how often do we see that the answer for why I want to have an abortion is because it's not convenient for me right now. It will mess up my plans. And it's a completely selfish approach to life and meaning. And so all that matters is me. The social misfit doesn't care about who they hurt. Why? Because the social misfit is self-serving. Verse 13. Whoso rewardeth evil for good, evil shall not depart from his house. And it's going to be, you're going to see that cycle. I know it's kind of a trendy idea. You talk about generational sin and generational problems. Look, there are generational things. We do what we're taught. We do what we're taught. There's things that I do in my family because I was taught by my dad. There's things that I don't do in my family because my dad put a stop to some of those things. And I praise the Lord for a dad that was willing to put a stop to some generational abuse and trauma. The wicked don't stop it. They embrace it because they only care about themselves. They don't care about who they're going to hurt because it's only about me. The social misfit is self-serving. Number 6, the social misfit. I'm going to be able to say that by the end of the night. The social misfit has no problem destroying relationships. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore leave off contention before it be meddled with. This is like a dam bursting. The beginning of strife, it's like you're meddling with what's going to cause a problem. You're poking the buttons. The social misfit doesn't care what they do because they just are looking for a reaction. They have no problem destroying relationships. And then when the dam bursts, if you've ever seen a dam burst, you don't stop it. The power of water is incredible. And when we let those relationships explode, there is great consequences that will last for a very long time. And the social misfit doesn't care about people. They're self-serving, so they don't care about their relationships. They're willing to do damage to anyone to get their own agenda done. Number 7, the social misfit does not recognize the difference between right and wrong. Look at verses 15 and 16. He that justifieth the wicked and he that condemneth the just, even they both are abomination to the Lord. Wherefore is there a price in the hand of a fool to get wisdom, seeing he hath no heart to it? The social misfit does not recognize the difference between right and wrong. There, he justifies the wicked. So he defends that which is evil. And he condemns that which is good. He has no idea of what right and wrong are. And so the fool destroys, the fool tears down, and does not understand the difference. And so instructions on where morality comes from. Last week, I believe it's Senator Tim Kaine, godless, evil senator, needs Jesus, said that our nation's rights are not given to us by God, that God isn't necessary. So if you voted for Tim Kaine, you know where I stand. He's evil. Don't ever vote for that guy. They can't take away our tax-exempt status when I endorse things anymore anyways. So there you have it. Our rights, not only according to our Constitution, but they are truly given to us by God. We are made in His image. All rights come from God. I don't just magically get them because somebody assigned them to me in a law. I get them by God, and that's what sets our nation apart from everybody else. And so that's important for us to think about. And so when we lose the rule of law based on the moral rule of God, we as a nation are in deep trouble. Because we start celebrating what is evil when we don't understand the difference between a man and a woman. Right? Right? These things, celebrating that evil is terribly wrong. The rule of law matters. I will never forget being in India, and one of the deacons in the church spent a whole afternoon grilling me on what made America great. And that was his question. He wanted to know what made America great. And I spent time talking to him, and he said, what you have is what we do not have. We have abuse of power. We have corruption. We don't know where anything... You have the rule of law. And I was sitting there scratching my head and thinking, oh, if you only knew. But the rule of law sets us apart so that we respect the domicile of someone else. Locks on doors really don't keep people away. It just keeps honest people away. Because a bad guy is going to break a lock. But we live close. We clean our streets. We don't have... That's what... When I was in India, there was junk everywhere. There was trash. You kept your own house neat, but you threw all your trash outside your fence, and it looked like it was terrible. It was, and that deacon was like, we don't have a rule of law. We have no order. We just do whatever we feel like. And so it was really weird. At a church function, there was the bathroom was a board next to where we were eating. You just went behind it. And they were like, and that was one of the pastors like, see, we can't get even people to go use the bathroom. And I know that seems like a silly thing, but we have much to celebrate in our nation. And when we lose the rule of law, we lose our moral identity, we are in deep trouble. The social misfit doesn't recognize the difference between right and wrong. Number 8, the social misfit does not understand the value of their relationship. They destroy relationships, and then they don't understand the value of their relationships. Verses 17 to 19. It says, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A man void of understanding striketh hands and becometh surety for in the presence of his friend. He loveth transgression that loveth strife, and he that exalteth his gate seeketh destruction. And so what do we see? This concept there is they don't see the value of a friend, the value of a relationship. And so someone that does not build relationships but tears them down, that we've already looked at, they are in trouble. They're going to be a detriment to society. Somebody that is looking for evil, looking to tear down, looking to hurt, looking to destroy, is not someone who's looking to be an encouragement and build consensus and to do something great. They're looking to destroy and hurt and maim. So when you see those we could talk political and all, when we see people that are simply trying to tear down and destroy and not uphold truth, it gives us a clue on where the evil really is. And should give us a strong encouragement to stand for truth and build relationships. Remember Brother Young last week talked about life on life. We've been talking about discipleship, one-on-one, relationships, encouraging one another. Our relationships matter. And if I think I can do it by myself and I'm going to tear down others and hurt others and speak evilly about others, all I'm doing is demonstrating that I don't value relationships, and therefore I don't value truth, and I don't value justice, and I don't value God and His ways. And so ultimately I'm rejecting God's plan and His goodness for my own choice in choosing evil because I love me more than I love God. The social misfit, number 9, desires strife and contention by word and action. The social misfit desires strife and contention by word and action. Verse 20. He that hath a forward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief. This is talking about somebody who has, their heart is bent. One of my favorite books that I've come to read in the series that I've come to read in the last little while, it's called the Ransom Trilogy by C.S. Lewis, or the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis. And in the second book, it's dealing with a new creation and dealing with Satan's temptation of Eve and what that would have looked like. And the way that the Christian character is trying to help Eve understand Satan's temptation is that she didn't understand sin, so he described it as bent. He's bent. He's a bent one. He's done what is wrong. And he's leading in a wrong way. That idea, hath a forward heart, findeth no good. They're bent. They're not going the right way. It's somebody who doesn't care about truth. It's somebody who's following their own heart, and that leads them to destruction. And so the bent one in the second book called Paralandra spends his time while the new idea of Eve is sleeping. He spends his time finding frogs and torturing them and killing them because he's evil. And there's no reason for him to kill them. He just kills them. And that demonstrates his propensity to evil is the destruction of life. He that hath a forward heart findeth no good, and he that hath a perverse tongue falleth into mischief. So somebody that speaks evilly, somebody who constantly speaks what is evil and wrong, is someone who does evil things and lives in an evil manner, and they find their joy in doing what is wrong. And that type of person in society can cause great problems because the social misfit desires strife and contention by word and action. So they're always looking for a fight. Number 10, the social misfit is a blight to their family. The social misfit is a blight to their family. Proverbs 17, verses 21 and 22, and then 25. He that begetteth a fool doeth it to his sorrow, and the father of a fool hath no joy. You see the pain there in verse 21? It's going to come back in verse 25 even stronger, but this family pain of a foolish child that rejects truth and rejects God's plan to follow evil, it is a terrible, terrible burden. However, the opposite is true. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. So this foolish son, there's no joy, and it dries the parents' bones. Verse 25, a foolish son is a grief to his father and bitterness to her that bare him. This person that chooses evil is a blight to their family that brings nothing but sorrow. Number 11, the social misfit attempts to thwart true justice. Look at verse 23 and then 26. A wicked man taketh a gift out of the bosom to pervert the ways of judgment. You remember a couple of weeks ago when we talked about, earlier in chapter 17, when we talked about a bribe is like a magic stone. But it was about generosity and giving gifts and being a blessing and building encouragement. Here, the bribe is different. This bribe is used not to be a blessing and an encouragement. This is used to manipulate and twist. To twist what true justice is. So we could, in however many different ways, that you could talk about a bribe, using it to twist justice according to your own will. Verse 26, also to punish the just is not good, nor to strike princes for equity. So Proverbs, we continue this idea, is that when someone is doing good, it's not good to punish them. There needs to be equal opportunity. I remember dealing with some kind of I'll tell you, I know I've mentioned this before, but there was my senior year in high school, we had a strict dress code, especially about hair for guys. There was to be no mohawks at my public school. No mohawks at our public school. Hair had to be, you could have sideburns to the bottom of your earlobes, but on the football team, it had to be middle of the year. So I was ready for Bible college when it came to hair policies. So I and the other offensive linemen, like you could do a whole lot of things to your hair, but you were supposed to have no mohawks. And the one, like you couldn't spike them up like that. I've pretty much had the same haircut since I was in 8th grade for the most part, other than the couple of times that I shaved my head. And it was both of those times were for football. And my senior year, I got the bright idea. I was gonna shave it, and I was gonna shave it into a like tomahawk mohawk kind of thing, the big wide one, like Mr. T. I wanted to have, so I shaved it. So I shaved it 2 sides before football season, and before our first game. And I shaved it that way. And I looked like an idiot, but I thought it was great. And I went to class, and my assistant principal, Coach Carlene, came by. He used to be the basketball coach. At lunch, I'm eating lunch with my friends, and about that time, a guy walked by with a real mohawk. Like, it wasn't spiked up, but you could see it. Shaved head, and it was hanging down to about here. And Coach Carlene came up to me. He saw that guy. Came up to me and said, "Hudson, you need to shave your head. You can't have that haircut. It's against dress code." I got a little big for my britches, and I laughed, and I said, "Tell you what, Coach, go tell that guy to cut his hair, and I'll be glad to cut mine. I told you to cut your hair. You need to get that. You need to take care of that." I said, "Go tell him. You won't do it, will you?" You're afraid of him. But you'll tell me because I'm the good kid. He walked away. I'm just telling you this. Okay, so I told you I got big for my britches. I'm going to tell Coach. I said, you can tell Coach. I'll take it. I got in line at football class a couple hours later, and he told Coach Bass. I will tell you, Coach Bass gave me the worst SWAT of my entire life. He could bench press over 400 pounds. And it wasn't at that moment that I got the SWAT, but I knew what was coming if I didn't. I sat down in class, and he said, Hudson, that will be gone before practice. Yes, sir, it will. So in my own little head, but what frustrated me was an unequal application of justice. And I rebelled. And I needed to get my attitude put in check. But when there is that kind of unequal justice, and something is good for one person and they don't get in trouble for it, but somebody else, does that not breed frustration? And so the social misfit attempts to thwart true justice. True justice needs to be justice is to be blind, correct? Regardless of who you are, where you came from. And so it needs to come out in our application. So when we're dealing with our children, teaching them justice is important. Not that somebody can bribe me. Not that somebody can just get out of it. I don't know how many times I tell my kids, all right, it's time to go receive discipline. But Daddy, I love you. And I love you too. And that's why it's time to go get discipline. We want to thwart justice. We don't like it because we like our own ends. But it's important for us to understand. Number 12, the social misfit is easily distracted away from consistent growth. And I think this is a problem for us and all of us in our society today because there's so many distractions. Wisdom is before him that hath understanding, but the eyes of a fool are in the ends of the earth. So the wise person is able to look and learn and develop and grow. The fool, what does it say? The wise person is looking at what's in front of them and how they can build around them. But the fool is somebody who is only focused about the out there. There's no concept of the here and now and the consequences of my actions here and now. There's only the idea of the out there. And so thinking through how we apply these things, we need to understand that wisdom isn't just, we've got to overcome some of our cultural ADHD and give ourselves to some consistent, patient growth and development. I'm speaking to myself. It's turn off the device and get alone with God. It's step away from what those things are that so easily distract us so that we can develop a path to consistent growth. Not just on the wishful thinking of some kind of unobtainable dream that's out there. I think the Disney model here fits. The follow your heart, just do whatever you feel like. That's not wise. Wisdom looks for ways to build, and because you're going to follow God's path, God's plan, and God's way. And so if we put all of these things together, it won't let me take. It's just going to do that now. Wisdom, if we don't take care and instruct the next generation on what it means to build a society of faithful, wise, caring people who have been given rights by God, who know how to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. We're going to be people that destroy, tear down, and build nothing of value. We're going to be people that only live for selfishness and what I can get in the moment. And everyone else is built to serve me. That kind of entitled thinking has got to go from us as believers. But what we need to instill is the building of relationships, the caring for souls, the caring for people, the treasuring of life from beginning to end. Celebrating the differences and distinctions that we all have, the parts of the body that we all play, and that we're all different, but we serve the same God, and together we can be more effective. And that is necessary. Destroying selfishness, self-serving ways only leads to destruction. Being short-sighted or even not even caring about the future events or what we're building is going to not lead us to have a place to go. Where is Bethel going to be in 50 more years? Right? If the Lord tarries, what are we going to be? So when we start taking that and apply that down into our own setting, it's important for us. When we apply it to a national setting, it's important for us to think about, how do we build truth? We do that by boldly proclaiming the gospel, by standing against error, calling out sin, and treating things with true justice, even if our secular world does not like true justice, but likes a manipulated justice that's self-serving and built on lies. We can stand for truth. And so as we think about these things, I hope that this portion of Proverbs 17 can encourage you to deal with perhaps maybe a struggling family member and recognize how they're thinking so that you're able to devise a strategy to encourage them, even if it means they're part of getting 100 stripes. But there can be a gracious approach to dealing with them when we understand that there are people that live and act this way. And we have an opportunity to speak truth, to demonstrate care and compassion, and understand why we believe what we believe. Because we walk in wisdom, and we look to build and support and encourage relationships, not destroy them. Let's pray. Father, help us to take your word. I know with having 12 points and looking at this big of a portion of Scripture, it's easy to feel scattered and shotgunned. And I pray that you would help us to recognize our own weaknesses and our own tendencies towards sin, so that we can follow you and walk in wisdom. Help us and bless us. Watch over us. For those that are living in some of these verses, are dealing with people around them, family members, children, loved ones, God, I pray that you would help them to have joy in the midst of the struggle. I pray that you would fill them with truth and recognize as they stand for you, they're doing what is right. And that by doing what is right, they are a demonstration of consistency and your help and the answer to life's problems being found in the person and work of Jesus Christ. Lord, what we know is that all of us have a natural tendency towards sin. And so the natural tendency for all of us is to selfishness. We're naturally bent. We choose wrong. But Lord, you've graciously dealt with us in your mercy and truth. Oh, Lord, help us to treat others with mercy and truth, to build relationships, to walk away from evil, to learn from mistakes, and to walk in wisdom. Oh, God, help us. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Please stick around for ice cream, and we will support our missions team. But thank you for being here. You are dismissed.